So
last week we set Adam some homework.
Yep.
When he declared at the end of the show that Mamdani is
an idiot.
Was worse than that, but yeah.
No, I'm pretty
you
sure.
definitely came down like Mamdani is the worst thing since.
I never said that. Putting words in my mouth.
So, and then we asked you to name what it was that you don't like about him, and you couldn't, and that was a bit troubling. So this week you can.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear them. Bullet points. Top 10.
I'll start with a thing that I like, which is that in Trump's presence in the Oval Office, it was stated that Israel was committing genocide. And this statement came from Mamdani.
Okay, well, that's the opposite of your homework. That's a good thing about him.
Yeah, I know. So I just wanted to throw it out there that not everything about this guy is the worst thing since
sliced bread.
Unsliced bread.
But Trump also seemed to like him in that meeting in the White House.
Yeah.
In the Oval Office.
Yeah.
No?
They were chummy.
So you're... I mean, are you MAGA or not?
Depends on the day.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but the bullet points for the things that he was running on, first was freezing rent. The second was fare-free buses. And then also what was the third thing again? Fare-free buses, rent-frees. Oh, and zero-cost childcare. So those were the main things that he platformed on. Okay. And
that makes him bad news. Really bad. The worst choice.
Well, he's an idiot because of the things that because the policies themselves are not really a solution. On the one hand, they kind of sound like they could be a solution, but when you get into the reality of how it actually would play out, it's not the solution he would think it is.
Okay. Have then these things been tried in New York before?
They've been tried in other places in the U.S., yes.
In the U.S. Because fare-free ride is common in Europe for, select groups of people. And it's fine.
Well, yeah, mostly for seniors, right?
Yeah. Seniors, students.
That's probably the case in the U.S.
There's some college towns that do it for college students.
For seniors. For pensioners.
Oh, that I didn't see.
You don't get passes. If you get past a certain age, you get to travel free on buses or anything like that. No.
Buses aren't really a thing where I used to live.
Buses or trains, or neither are trains, right? I suppose.
It was either you drive yourself or
that's part of the problem. That's
somewhere.
why I don't see it so much, I suppose, because there's not a lot of public transport in America, at least in some places. But no, the idea of at least in Europe, there's a lot of people have. Particularly seniors get senior passes and they get free rail and bus or whatever travel and free other things as well. The idea being that they've paid taxes their whole lives, and if it's a state, if it's just a lot of the train services obviously in Europe and stuff, and even the bus services will be public or publicly owned, like the state run. Mm-hmm. So in those cases, the idea is, well, these people paid taxes to the state all their lives. So, and especially since seniors, tend to, a lot of them maybe don't want to drive anymore. It's more difficult. And if there is a different way for them to travel around, then they prefer to use that kind of travel, train or bus. And then also they get, because they've been paying taxes all their lives, they should get for free.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a reasonable thing, I think, to take care of people who have taken care of you. But specifically in this instance, what he was talking about doing, the way that it played out, the Metro Transport Association, who runs the buses in New York City, said that it was a failure. The pilot program that they had for the past year, they said it was a failure. And they said it was a failure because it didn't really do what they wanted it to, which is get more people riding buses. Now, they said in some of the reports that you see in media, that ridership was up 38%, which would appear to contradict it. Mm-hmm. But apparently it's just because the ridership was up because more people who took that train normally took it more often because it was free. Mm-hmm. Which wasn't really what they were trying to do.
New people, yeah.
They were trying to get new people, but it didn't really work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a fundamental... Mamdani, you know, I suppose his approach is just fundamentally different from, at least in theory, from the American...
from what most Americans...
Yeah. Their
are used to.
Their economic model, let's say, that they believe in, which is basically, you know, it's obviously complicated. It's been talked about for a long time, but there is a lot of social welfare in America. Actually, there's a lot of state welfare in America.
No, there is.
So it's kind of silly for people. Maybe I think a lot of people might actually think in the US that there isn't a lot of state welfare, but there actually is. A shitload of government money goes to people for free, basically, to take care of people who can't take care of themselves or who need extra income or whatever. So there's a decent helping of socialism in America already, but then...
It's almost a conscious program in recent decades to make it more European.
Yeah.
I think that the sticking point that's kind of like an axis, a separate axis that runs through all this is the rights fear probably correct in substance, that this isn't people who have spent a life paying into the system getting something back. It's new people getting stuff for free. Relatively. They're relatively new. They don't contribute much or at all or little. And then they're getting more. Well, from who? And the Americans are very up on, you know, socialism equals theft because it's taxation from people who produce to those who don't. And they see it just in those black and white terms, especially since the massive influx of migrants.
Using that as a stepping stone, then I'll go on to his second platform policy platform was freezing the rent. Because in New York City, apparently 40% of rentals are under the control of the mayor in a form of rent stabilization. So it's already like subsidized in a way, housing for 40% of rentals in New York City. So what he is wanting to do is actually put a hard cap on it and no increases whatsoever.
In an existing program.
Okay. But the problem there is, let me make sure that I'm saying this correctly. There are currently 200,000 rent-stabilized apartment buildings that are functionally bankrupt. And you are talking about cutting off even more revenue from these apartment buildings, which means there's going to be fewer of these actual rent-stabilized apartments available for people, and the ones that do continue to exist will be in worse shape, which is again going to make things worse for the people who have to live in them. At the same time, you're going to be making it more difficult to get into that type of housing because more people will be wanting to get in, which means fewer people are going to be leaving. And then that is leading to price increases for literally everyone else. Now, in addition to the policy itself, there's the separate policy, which he's stated not as a policy per se, but as a call to action, which is his desire to go against Trump and his ICE deportation scheme. So he is effectively wanting to bring more people and keep more people in New York City. What do you think that does to rent prices in your city? You stupid fuck.
So he's all about not just keeping the migrants New York City has, but bringing more. He is like signaling, or has he explicitly said, we need / want more? Is he saying stuff like that?
He is.
That would round it off, because even his predecessor, also Democrat, Adams, like, I don't know if New York's not one of the sanctuary cities, is it? But I remember when some of like Ron DeSantis and others in the southern red states were sending people up to places in New York by bus. They had a major problem, and Adams was trying to crack down on it. Would you seriously say Mamdani would be like, good, send more?
This is the messaging that he's putting out when he's telling his NYPD officers not to work with ICE and to do things that hamper their ability to deport people. Effectively, the messaging is, we like our immigrants and we want to keep them. It doesn't matter whether he's saying we want more, because more are coming in anyway.
Yeah. Well, that will shore up, though. There's one thing that has actually happened in year one of MAGA Part 2. It's that the borders closed. Functionally, in the end, Trump did get his wall. So there's far like it's way off. Illegal arrivals in the United States is like at a 50-year low. So if you like, the wound from the right's perspective is staunched, at least.
The illegal immigration. But there's still the problem of legal migration, which is still over 1 million a year.
Okay, but right there, Trump and Mamdani are going to be on the same page, because Trump has signaled his support for it. Well, kind of. This is the problem. It's not just a New York topic. It's nationwide, right?
Yeah.
Did you see Trump's Thanksgiving Truth Social post?
It's why I brought it up.
Do you have it?
No, not on hand.
I think I screen captured it. Hang on. Oh yeah, it's Thanksgiving, and Americans are either drunk at this point or shouting over politics. I don't know what happens on Thanksgiving these days.
At my family gatherings, stuff our gullets.
Okay.
Talk about how awesome Trump is.
True social post. There it is. Because during the summer I thought, well, he's totally flip-flopping. Yes, the border is closed, but here he is telling Laura Ingraham on Fox News, no, we're still lining up for bringing in. We need 600,000 more Chinese students or something. And her face just dropped, But he was trying to explain that we still need to attract high-skilled labor. So on Thanksgiving, even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the US system to fully recover. Terminate all the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country, blah, blah, blah. He wants to deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations. This is the key part, I think. He puts this in all caps. Only reverse migration can fully cure the situation. Other than that, happy Thanksgiving. So that's the R word, remigration, which is what, I don't know whether it's most Trump supporters, but certainly the right of the base is like, we need remigration, deportations. But I was going to say earlier that Mamdani can rally against it because that's the left's rallying point. Because that's extreme, that's tyrannical, that's fascist. In reality, I checked for something I wrote last week. Monthly, even now at month 9, 10, 11 of MAGA, serious, real MAGA this time, his average monthly deportations numbers are lower than Biden's and Obama's. So he sent the flag up again on Thanksgiving, but in actuality, the kind of counter pressure against him, and it's not really coming from Mamdani. It's coming from whoever can organize LA and Portland to riot like they did in the summer, and to shoot, or they missed ostensibly to shoot at ICE agents in Texas whenever that was. I think it was September. And then his responses were so tepid. You would think Trump had sent in the army. He sent in 300 National Guard to LA. 300. Yeah. They were outnumbered by the protesters. So it was just like tepid, you know. So if he's in any way serious about that and triggering all of the blue sanctuary cities to start rioting or something, and it's a fight that hasn't even taken place yet. It may yet during this term. So yeah, it's the Democrat talking point. We won't know until there's a real showdown, until there's a real standoff. We only got a kind of a symbolic one in the summer. To listen to the headlines, you would think that the U.S. is Trump's army versus the backlash against his mass deportation. It hasn't. It's only happened a little bit. You know, he's probably scared to. It's probably too big too much of a Rubicon to cross.
To send in the troops
for real. In the way that, say, I don't know, JFK sent in 50,000 National Guard to force a university in Alabama to accept black students in 1962. 50,000, one student.
Yeah, Trump's a bit all talk and not much action, right? At least that's what's been the case.
I wonder if it would have any bearing on why his numbers are lower than Obama and Biden's, if it had to do with the pushback that he's been getting from the courts.
But definitely that's part of it. It's definitely part of it. It's lawfare, it's the media making it seem like they've already had a massive showdown and the people are fighting back against ICE bullshit. There was a riot in LA and Portland's permanently rioting, but the battle hasn't even begun if he's even willing to engage it.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is, the courts just lock it all up and you can't do that. Nope, you can't do that. Right now, there's a battle over whether he can have the few hundred National Guard he's got in Washington, D.C. since a month ago. I think in the end he would win legally if it goes up to SC, but in the meantime, it's just dragged through courts. Yeah. You know.
Well, did you see those Dems? There's a bunch of Dems come out and made an appeal to the troops to kind of like, or to military brass or whatever, to not disobey illegal orders. I think this is several elected Democrats made a little video and posted it somewhere, I don't know, on the Democrat internet. Anyway, this is them.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly. Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
The Air Force.
your vigilance is critical.
and know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
The American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Don't give up
This
the ship.
message was brought to you by the CIA.
Don't give up the ship. But then the weird thing is that you can say that this is brought to you by the CIA, but then whatever, a week after that, and that was, that appeal was directly, implicitly, not explicitly, but implicitly referring to Trump's use of the National Guard and deploying the National Guard in different places,
Mm-hmm.
And then, so a week after, they make that appeal to the military to don't do whatever Trump tells you to do, including sending, using the National Guard or whatever, wherever in Washington, D.C., or who knows what he could do. He's a loose cannon. But a week later, an Afghani who was working for the CIA for 10 years in Afghanistan and then was taken in after their
Speedy withdrawal.
their massive retreat from Afghanistan. He came into the US after having worked as a kind of special forces, Afghan military, working with the CIA and kind of black ops and all that kind of stuff in Afghanistan. He then goes and shoots 2 National Guard in Washington, D.C., and the result of that is that Trump then adds 500 more. So now you could just call that just some guy going off, right? Crazy Afghani, but his background is quite interesting, and
He was working
And who
for,
shot?
he was a killer for a death squad.
that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was working for the CIA and black ops and the Afghan military, and for 10 years in Afghanistan. So,
So he's someone who would have been
so how does he?
shepherded out because he'd be a risk from the Taliban. Probably.
Yeah, well, he was taken out along with a lot of others, and
Yeah.
Trump seemed to claim, Trump was like, well, we don't know, he wasn't vetted and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, well, he obviously was.
Didn't the
vetted, right?
CIA admit he was one of ours?
Yeah.
They
That
publicly
was-
said, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was virtually recognised. So, he.
Do we have a clear idea what happened? He just walked up to...
Yeah. Just walked up to them and shot them, and then he was shot. But so dead men tell no tales and all that kind of stuff. Well, was he killed?
I think
he
he's
was, yeah.
alive.
I thought
Taken
so.
to the hospital.
Yeah, I thought he was still alive.
Yeah. Anyway, upshot being that if you apply the conspiracy theory to it, then he may have been groomed or something by the CIA to go and shoot these 2 National Guard, and obviously they wouldn't do that if they didn't realize. Obviously, they would only do that in the context of knowing that Trump would then use that to
Justify extension.
justify sending 500 more National Guard to Washington, D.C., which doesn't really fit with your claim that the CIA are trying to prevent the National Guard from going to Washington, D.C. They're actually trying to do the opposite.
Right.
Just saying.
Yeah. It certainly fits a tension. Big campaigning to get people to, in their minds, that what Trump's doing is illegal. It's not. On the one side. And then on the other side, give Trump everything he needs to do the illegal thing. And so you keep, if you had a strategy there, a strategy of tension.
Yeah, exactly. Playing both sides against the middle, whatever. So it's not one or the other, So it never is with the CIA, or rarely is. But Kristi Noem said that he was border Barbie. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security lady, said that he was radicalized in the USA. I believe suspect Ramanullah Lakanwal was radicalized since he's been here in this country. Now, who radicalizes people in America? That's what I want to know. Well, there's a long list of FBI terror plots involved radicalizing, quote unquote, radicalizing people in order to carry out phony terror plots going back about 25 years. That's even the mainstream media has reported on, saying pretty much that all the FBI terror plots over the past 20 years have been the work of the FBI. So certainly within the US, yeah, the whole radicalization thing is very suspect. It may happen, but I'd say most of the time when people are radicalized and then they actually go and do something successfully and it has some impact on society, very often that radicalization is being done by elements of the state itself. And given this guy's background working with the CIA in Afghanistan, then who radicalized him? Probably the CIA. And they radicalized him in order to carry out a shooting against National Guard, which they obviously knew was going to justify or provoke Trump into not withdrawing the National Guard, obviously, but adding more National Guard. Which he did.
And maybe this is why Trump has not yet gone massive on deportations. Because I'm pretty sure if you look back over the course of the year, it's he himself who climbed down from or pulled back from ICE raids or numbers. He was initially pushing for high numbers, but he stopped that. He wanted X numbers of arrests and deportations daily. Because he knows or senses or gets the impression that this is obviously a potential trap. You know, he'll come up against a massive campaign of what you're doing is illegal, which will rile up the cities, which will make it even harder to do. Like can you imagine? You know, you have a mandate to do something, but as soon as you start doing it, it's all kinds of dangers, you know. And then they're rushed, and the agents themselves, they make mistakes, they arrest innocents. Some idiot brings a gun, then they shoot someone, and in the meantime, though, you've got media and spooks just laying in wait to set all kinds of things like this. This was easy to do, but that's the kind of thing that could become a lot more common. I wonder if there have been other incidents. There's only the two we've mentioned that are high profile. Obviously this week, this Afghan guy, and then the kid, it kind of got swallowed by the fallout from Charlie Kirk's assassination, but it was soon after that this kid of a similar lefty pink-haired background, you know, shoots at an ICE facility in Texas, but kills immigrants. Maybe he was just randomly firing or something. And then did he kill himself? Or he was shot by a police sniper? I think he just killed himself. They found him dead. But then the headlines don't even go into it. They just note that, clashes at ICE center over Trump's migration policy. Trump, you know? Anything bad, Trump.
Yeah.
So this is it's like a minefield.
Yeah.
Because it's been the CIA's playground for so long. And Trump, even though this is like almost his 10th year of really being the boss, of being the political leader, not literally the boss, but the people's leader, he still can't make much inroads in some areas, you know?
No, because they have power, they have control behind the scenes to, like in this case, well, what do you want to do? You want to reduce immigration? Okay. Then we'll... that's not going to go smoothly. We're not going to allow that to go smoothly, so we can, you know, have people, radicalized people, carry out attacks that then either... So it depends what they you know, they either decide to try and suppress or prevent or stonewall or hobble Trump's policies on, you know, in trying to do certain things. If he's got an agenda to do one thing, then they say, yeah, we don't do that. Let's prevent him in all sorts of different ways from really making any progress in that. But on other things that he talks about, and they say, well, yeah, we'd actually like to help him do that. So let's run it off the rails type thing. Or let's give it some fire, you know. He's talking about immigration. His base is talking about, you know, getting the immigrants out and all that kind of stuff because they're a danger to society. Yeah, we can run with that. Let's amp up the feeling that they're a danger to society by having some kind of mass shootings go on, that kind of stuff. You know, so it's called social engineering.
While telling everyone Trump bad, poor migrants.
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah,
it's coming from the same source.
Kind of messing with people's heads, you know.
That is such a mind job.
And it's also you can't forget the other angle, which is that this guy is Afghan and therefore radical jihadi and therefore clash of civilization. We must stop radical Islam from...
Well, you notice they didn't run with that because that would be a really hard sell in this case because he was very much of the anti-Islam side in Afghanistan.
He was working with the US military basically to fight the Taliban in Afghanistan. Yeah.
No,
But
I've still seen
it
it
lingers
within,
in people's minds. They hear Muslim and they'll just, the short circuit to the default response is
because I believe recently Trump also did a Truth Social couple of posts, and one of them was a tweet from a guy, Robert O'Neill. If you've ever been to Afghanistan, you wouldn't understand. If you showed these people an espresso machine and gave them free coffee, they would assume you were a witch and chop off your head. So it's like, that's what I mean, where there is this aspect being brought into the discussion, in this case by Trump himself, which benefits, a group of people who shall not be named.
right. I think we'll see. That post on Thanksgiving is maybe it's just Trump aiming high again, but he can. It's almost like they're trying to forestall something he wants to do, and once it starts, who knows? Maybe it'll be it'll go much easier than it seems at the moment, because substantially of popular backing for this, because it's all connected. The Mamdanis of the world will complain, and maybe their message will be amplified. But they can't escape the economic realities that the conditions in the big cities are as they are because of this. Migration crisis is demographic crisis, is economic crisis, is housing crisis. It's all the same. And the CIA angle on it, well, they don't care how things are going in the US, so long as the status quo remains.
As long as they remain in power,
yeah,
or remain in control. So it's about, and not ultimately, like I said, it's about social engineering, because ultimately, whether or not they remain, it's not whether or not they remain in control, it's whether or not they have the ability to remain in control, and their ability to remain in control ultimately comes down to their ability to keep the population divided, I suppose. Trump was at least in potential, a serious threat to their power, not because of Trump himself, what he would do necessarily, but because of how he could galvanize and unite the population behind a certain agenda that would ultimately, take power away from them, or would force them to, assassinate him, which they probably tried to do. So when they have that option up to and including assassinating someone just to take them out, well then, they have pretty much complete control, right? But you can they don't want to be put in a bind in that respect, because if they were to get away with assassinating Trump, if they were able to actually assassinate Trump, they risk, even though they might not realize it, they risk exposing their own hand. So the thing that keeps them in power and keeps them in control is essentially the secrecy around them, the fact that most people don't recognize or admit or know for sure anyway, or know clearly that there is an actual deep state that runs the country behind the scenes. We're getting some intimations of that with the whole, but the fact that they tried to assassinate him last year, didn't get away with it. A lot of people put it down to God. That was a kind of out for them in a certain sense, because that then took the heat off them, because, if Trump had actually been assassinated, then obviously it wouldn't have been God that saved him, i.e. nobody saved him, so then you're only left with who killed him. And it would have kind of let a lot of cats out of the bag in that respect, or maybe might have red-pilled an awful lot of people, or woke an awful lot of people up to the reality, to a kind of hardcore reality. So I think it's a lot of it has to do what they play with and what they manipulate and what they all their machinations from behind the scenes type thing are all to do with playing with the public perception and the public mind and keeping it divided and confused and looking in all sorts of different directions. They don't want everybody looking in the same direction at once, and certainly not in a positive direction, a positive for the people of the country, etc. So they keep people divided, etc. So so they don't want to be. They're trying to avoid being put in a bind, I suppose, in that sense, where they're forced, where someone comes into a position of power, or some leader, or some group, or some ideology takes hold that they really have to push back against, particularly in the form of a person, obviously. A leader leading that kind of a new idea or new ideology that doesn't serve their interests, and they don't want to be put in a position where they have to actually take extreme measures, because then, like I said, they risk exposing themselves and being hoisted on their own petard, or being the architects of their own undoing. So it's a difficult job, It's a kind of, it's not a job you'd like to really. It's not a job I would like to have. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of it's a contradiction in terms, in a certain sense. Like, you've been manipulating people all this for so long, and the length of time, because you've been manipulating them for so long, so more and more of them are starting to wonder about, are we being manipulated? And the only way to deal with that is to try and manipulate them more. Mm-hmm. But then by doing that, you actually, obviously, it's like, you don't have to be super smart to realize that actually, well, if the reason we have this problem with people starting to wake up a little bit to manipulation is because we've been manipulating them, then doubling down on the manipulation might not be the best idea. Can you see that? Let's have a think about this. Let's all get around the table and talk about this. So there's a thing we've been doing that's causing a problem, and we want to solve that problem. So our solution is to do more of the thing that's causing the problem. Let's get more people in here. We need to discuss this further. Is that a good idea?
Yes.
But
let's do that.
They never say no. The answer is never no.
No, because the problem is that there is no other solution once you set yourself on that path. There is no other there's no alternative other than going, you know what? This is bullshit. This is never going to work. Let's just drop it.
Yeah.
Mea culpa.
But then what are they going to do if they go and get proper jobs, right? And they don't want to get proper jobs, so...
Yeah, then they might have to be normal people.
They have to go and work at McDonald's or something.
But at the same time, Trump is one with the old order on Venezuela. I mean, you're not going to see any roadblocks put in his way to do something in Venezuela. In fact, they'll be actively, advising him on how to do it right.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to make a distinction between, like you're saying, the old order. The old order is basically American empire. And there's nothing wrong with an American empire. If you're going to have an empire, you have to have an empire. Like, you can't have an empire, you can't have empire light. Like, you can't have, like, libtard empire or woke empire, woke and, there's no such thing as a woke empire, the two are mutually exclusive, If you're going to have an empire, you have an empire, and that's all there is to it. That doesn't necessarily imply, it doesn't necessarily imply nefarious manipulation of the domestic population for ulterior motives that may actually be, that ultimately, if they were able to think about it, would actually be the end of empire, would usher in the end of their own empire, So there's the overt politicians and there's an overt agenda of empire, which has been going on in the US for the past 800 years or more. And that's all normal. That's how you run an empire. Somebody's got to do it, right? Somebody's got to run the empire. Let's run the empire. How do you run an empire? Well, you go and you
bomb people,
create an empire, and then maintain it in whatever way is necessary. But this whole thing about internal stuff within the US and kind of like people being radicalized by creating strategy of tension and fear within the country for no other reason than keeping the people afraid and down. Because what are you afraid of? I don't know if they're afraid of anything. I don't think many people would necessarily. Maybe it is that. Maybe there's another element where, like nobody, as long as you can, America's been running its empire for a very long time, in different ways, and there is a way that, like I said, run an empire that's normal, acceptable. Nobody's going to complain about it except radical lefty libtards who just don't understand how the world works. But that's
peaceniks.
There's very few of those in America in particular.
Like us.
Yeah. Sort of.
We're not
naive.
He is.
Well, naive, naive people who don't realize how the world actually works. So there is a way to do that. And it has been done by America for, like I said, for the past 80, 90 years, without much pushback. But I think we're getting into the territory here of the fact or the idea or the truism that all empires have a shelf life. It depends on the context and when the empire actually rises and the world in which it rises and where it happens and when it happens and all that kind of stuff. But it seems to be playing out here. I mean, people use that all the time. The Roman Empire lasted X number of years. Other empires last. People put it like 250 years. I don't know why. I think because America's coming up for its 250. You're lucky if you get 250 years out of an empire. Historically.
Next summer is 250.
Yeah, next summer is 250. So maybe time has just run out on it, I mean, because again, it's the same idea. It does tie in with that idea of those deep staters kind of like trying to manipulate people, and then the manipulation causing people to wake up to manipulation. So what do? Well, you double down on the manipulation, and then you get just more people waking up, and eventually you're going to run into a brick wall there. There's no way out of that. Well, the same thing could apply to empire basically, because you have an empire if you run it badly, because you can't run an empire necessarily, well, let's say, to some extent. So there is maybe a kind of like a balancing, a woke empire in a certain sense.
In a sense of like where you're maintaining a balance between, say, your elites and the plebs, where there is a, like, yes, I'm being a bit exploitative, but I'm not exploiting you too hard. You're getting some benefits too. So it's like a mutually beneficial arrangement like that. In a theoretical, like it's a possibility, but the problem comes in when you have people who run this empire who have no desire to do anything for anyone but themselves.
Right, exactly. Well, but that's a corruption of that's a bad empire compared to a good one. So there is a possibility for a good empire. Of course, in establishing the empire, you usually have to break some eggs to get there initially, because people will just resist naturally. But then, if in the governance of the empire, if you institute policies that actually are beneficial for the people who live under empire, then nobody's going to complain. They don't care. They'll live under anybody as long as they don't care if it's a foreign empire, or, ultimately they won't really mind, as long as if it can be seen to be being beneficial for the population. It can be either we're ruled by elites in our own country, or we're ruled by elites from a different country. End result is food on the table. Can I put food on my family? As George Bush said. And
that's breaking down, I think.
Well, whenever you run it corruptly, it doesn't work anymore. Like an example of the corruption of it would be like in the whole Doge thing, where there was an apparent attempt to, and it has been going on for quite a long time under the Democrats, apparent attempt to bestow the benefits of empire on the imperial subjects in different countries via all the Doge programs, right? Social civil society programs, maternity clinics, blah blah. But of course, there was an agenda there that was just loony, which was the radical leftist transgender drag queens, transgender story hour, gender bender stuff basically, and they were trying to export that to all these other countries because they thought that was what people wanted or what was good for people, and obviously it's not good for people. So there was a corruption there in at the top in terms of the actual ideology of the empire that was trying to rule its subjects or trying to serve its subjects. But in essence, the idea of like all that Doge stuff, all that money being spent by the American government in other countries to keep those countries happy, finance them in one way or another. They're all being financed the wrong way. They're all being financed by a ridiculous ideology that was not really good for people, and in many places wasn't going to be compatible with the actual the attitude and the beliefs of the people in those countries. Like there's not a lot of people in Eastern Europe who are into transgender clinics or to transgender people. I think that gay pride parades on their streets is a good thing. So trying to force that on people because diversity or equality or whatever was just stupid. So it was that's an example of mismanagement of empire. The imperial largesse that was being sent out all around the world was not necessarily a bad thing, because that's how you have to run an empire if you want to keep it. But it's what are you actually financing? Are you financing social housing? Are you helping people to, are you money for startups, or traditional values, building churches, blah blah blah,
fair free transport,
or whatever is appropriate to the area? Because if you're running a global empire, then you have to take stock of the types of people in the different parts of the empire that you're ruling and they're governing. There has to be. That's why you have your viceroys, your envoys, your diplomats, basically,
instead
in the different areas, who get the feel for the people in the local area, and then they say, okay, this money should go to this in this country, and in this other country it should go to this, and that's what'll keep all these people happy, and nobody will complain about it. But they haven't been doing that. And increasingly
they got accused correctly overall of spreading global homo empire.
Global homo empire, yeah.
Because that was the cultural milieu that was developing in their circles.
Well, that was the infection
of the US Northeast at home.
Right, in their own minds.
So that's how you see the whole world.
Yeah, but that's again, that's mismanagement of empire. I mean, it's a big world. There's a lot of different cultures, different belief systems all around the world. So that's why you send out your viceroys, your envoys, whatever, to those different countries, or and they take a read on the situation, and then you establish proper governance in that particular area. But that's only one aspect of it, of obviously that corrupt ideology that was trying to be spread, and that's going to provoke a pushback. But also, I think it is the end of ultimately, regardless of what way the US had run its empire, even if it had run it impeccably, they're still going to run into what they're running into right now, which is the rise of Russia and China, other major powers who are in a position to compete. They're like potentially peer competitors against the empire, and if the empire really isn't doing good by them as well, and I don't know how you can't really incorporate other major peer competitors into an empire. You either have to, it becomes a tripartite empire in that situation. It's not a single global hegemon anymore. It's a three-way multipolar empire, and you'll all have to run it together. Trump seems to be thinking in that direction, trying to go there, but he's been getting a lot of pushback from the deep staters in the US who are like, no, the band's going to make it. The American hegemon is going to make it, and screw those other two. Let's take them down. We can win here, and that's putting him in a different situation, where he can't push forward with trying to bring America into, transition into a more multipolar world by making deals with Russia and China, because he's being thwarted by deep stater types in different places. And then he's forced back on, he gets a bit desperate, and he's forced back on things like Venezuela, and his America near abroad. It becomes a zero-sum game where it's no longer multipolarity with Russia and China. Let's cooperate. It's more like it's a fight to the death, basically, looking more and more like between America and Russia and China joined together. And Trump is trying to navigate that, but he's not the decider, he doesn't have all the cards. So I think that's why he's finding himself forced into doing things like he's been doing with Venezuela, And again, it's not his fault. He lost countries like Venezuela and other Latin American countries long before now because of mismanagement of the backyard, long before now, someone should have, probably Chavez in Venezuela, as far as Venezuela is concerned, someone within the US establishment should have worked something out with Hugo Chavez 20 years ago. Find some accommodation and bring them into, make sure they're good neighbors in America's backyard, But they decided to play it heavy-handedly, using a heavy-handed imperial approach. And to Trump, that's the legacy that Trump's dealing with, basically. Because Venezuelans have been soured, basically, and it gives rise to successors of Hugo Chavez, like Maduro, and he's like, there's no trust there. I mean, and instead of trying to build trust, Trump's like, well, there's no time to build trust. We've got Russia and China staring us down in the throat here. We need to take care of what we can in our backyard. We need to secure our backyard. And there's no time to try and, negotiate with Maduro because, he's been... That relationship was soured a long time ago, especially when Hugo Chavez said that he could smell the sulfur from George Bush at the UN. The devil was here. So
that was glorious.
Trump then is forced into a situation where he has to use threats and a heavy hand.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say that the way that, like you were saying, the way that the empire has been managed, there's ways of doing it all where it seems illogical. I mean, like you're saying, if your goal is to preserve empire, then you should actually be making deals, but that doesn't seem to be what they're actually doing. So then the actual reasoning behind what they're doing can't really be preserve empire in the sense of it working for people. It's a very niche form of or the like the benefits of the empire and the way that it's being run and who it's being run by and for. It's very niche. It's very particular to the people who are at the very tippity top. And again, if your goal was to run an empire that can be long lasting, then you're looking at actually making deals, making concessions, and working with people. However, if your goal is just to control
and to get what you can out of, just for yourself, it's just for personal power
and making sure that no one else can do anything beyond it. Basically, like, I want to be able to control everything and everyone, and I want to have no one who's able to challenge that control and that power. And that seems to be more of where we are in reality than anything else, because, again, they're doing things that are illogical from a standpoint of actually making things work, but it's very logical if you're looking at it from the perspective of, I control this, and I want to make sure no one else has any chance of anything resembling
I want to keep controlling
my level of power and prestige and
an example is an example would be like Scott Bessent, I think, said this week or a week ago or sometime this week, I think Scott Bessent said that he mentioned in an interview that who was he talking to? He was talking to somebody, I don't know, Meet the Press, talking about the Europeans. He said, the Europeans tell me, we're doing our 19th sanctions package. And he said, if you're going to do something 19 times, you've failed. And he said, but despite that, obviously they're talking about their 20th sanctions package, So it's like, it's fighting against the tide, basically. It's an inability. It's like the whole ban's going to make it. We can't see any other option, even though there are options. So it's doubling down on a bad idea. Just like, you want to manipulate the population in order to control them, so you can keep, extracting the loosh or whatever. But the more you manipulate them, more and more of them start to wonder, are we being manipulated? And your response then is to, manipulate them more, Kind of like beatings will continue until morale improves, that kind of idea, So if you've got all you've got is sanctions. You're pushing back against Russia. You think Russia has to be destroyed. Sanction them 19 times. None of them seem to have worked. The 20th one's going to do it. It's like, really, you should stop and think, maybe this isn't the way to go about things. Everything you do seems to be ushering in closer and faster the day when you're going to lose definitively.
Yeah. But that actually plays in their favor. I've been reading a lot of stuff from Richard Warner. Tucker interviewed him a few months ago, and it was really interesting. He said some things that, I had read in Ellen Brown's book and hadn't really heard it anywhere else, but there he was talking about these things. And so, looking into him and you're like, oh, this guy is incredibly smart and he knows what he's talking about. And he is
German banker.
Yeah. German banker, worked in Japan for a bit, did his schooling in the UK. He talks about what's going on in Germany right now as more or less the precursor to the rollout of, the WEF agenda, basically, where people who are in a society that functions and runs well are not going to want to take on something that is radical and obviously not in their interest. So you have to engineer a crisis in order for the solution to then seem like a good idea. And so if you destroy your country intentionally, but you do it slowly enough that it doesn't look like you're destroying your country intentionally, then when the crisis hits the breaking point and you present your solution, it seems like, well, maybe that's not so bad. Maybe a digital currency that can track everything I do, et cetera, isn't the worst thing in the world. But like you're saying, these are all things that they're doing that, as they implement them, wakes more people up to what's going on. So even if they did get to that point, is it actually going to work the way that they think it's going to work? I mean, it seems to me that
the end result of that kind of thing, if you like mismanagement of empire, it's no longer an empire, a benevolent empire, where you're actually the rulers of the empire, the leaders of the empire, actually care about the subjects that they've established the empire over, and seek to work in their interests and keep them happy, at least. The opposite of that is an empire where everybody's a slave.
Yeah.
And, you can just do that, but you need a big military, and you need to, enforce that, basically, and you keep everybody impoverished and just working in the fields and all the money flowing upwards. And you can do that, but don't think they last very long. I don't think it's viable. I think something maybe intercedes or something just goes wrong. Maybe there's some kind of that whole Chinese philosophy of mandate of heaven and all that kind of stuff. And there's a kind of political philosophy in a certain sense, ancient Chinese political philosophy, I suppose, that when bad rulers or people who mismanage the country and treat people badly, ultimately they usher in kind of, there's probably a cause and effect that you can figure out why it happens, but ultimately they cause like famines and some kind of destruction that just brings the whole thing down. You know what I mean? It's not productive and fruitful and progress. It doesn't have a future, really. Ultimately, it just runs it into the ground.
They take society below some threshold where active participation of the population
is no longer
is insufficient.
Right.
They need to believe in it.
Yeah.
They need to enjoy it.
They need to be participate in it, to be willing to participate in it.
And if there's some threshold there, and if it goes below, it's just...
Yeah. Well, people just stop participating, and then the whole thing collapses,
or they only do it out of fear.
Right. And that's why you have this whole, these competing ideologies now that they're pushing on people. And it's not so much about necessarily keeping people divided, although that's one part of it. It's to keep people motivated and interested. You know what I mean? Here's your ideology based on your type. Here's your ideology based on your type, and then you periodically encourage both via the media and whoever, and you G up both sides and get everybody continue to participate and be like, yeah, we're going to win. And,
participate
we
in the show.
Yeah, exactly. And we got to keep contributing money to this group or that group or whatever, keep going. So I don't think I think that's where they're at right now. Like ushering in some kind of like turning the planet into some kind of like dark slave planet or something like that. What's the point? Do you really see a future for that? Not really gonna, eventually all your slaves will die, basically. You know what I mean? I don't think it works like that, basically.
Who was the guy that he looks like death, and he was talking about oh gosh, he was talking about like atheism and
Israeli guy.
Maybe was it Thiel? Was it Peter Thiel?
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like types like him who are just like who hate humanity and have no love lost for like people suffering, and they're just like, you mean I can have all we have to do is kill like 7 billion people, and then I can live in a world where I get to do whatever I want with my slaves, and they're just like, yes.
Yeah.
And then I'll upload my brain into a robot body.
Yeah, he's the guy who actually said in interviews words to the effect of he was talking about the future and AI and all that kind of stuff, and he made reference to I thought it was funny. He made reference to he said like religions have in spiritual traditions, they have the idea of the transformation of human beings into something greater and all that kind of stuff. And he said, like, we're already starting there.
Transubstantiation, which he confused in a material sense.
Well, he didn't confuse it. I mean, he seemed to think. I mean, I don't know if he's confused, but he seemed to think that's. He said we've already started in that. The transformation of the human being into a more spiritual kind of human being. Like we're already starting that road. Like people have started off. They want to. Change their gender, transform. He said transform their gender, so like he saw the whole transgender thing as being a step towards it's a positive spiritual evolution of human beings. Said so you start off with your genitals, and then you want to change your arms, for example. So you're transforming your arms into something better, something greater. More spiritual, robotic arms, and then ultimately you can transfer your brain, into a jar. And then your mind is free. You upload your brain into the internet, and suddenly you're this super spiritual being. That's basically what he thought spirituality was. He looks at religious traditions or esoteric spiritual traditions, and that's what he reads from it. So for people like him, and probably loads of people that we don't know about in the intel agencies and behind the scenes, people talk a lot these days about. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the UFO stuff, drones, and all that kind of stuff. They're using the term non-NHI, non-human intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he's an example of non-human intelligence. Like,
you
don't need aliens to come. I mean, if you think aliens, some kind of aliens are going to come or something like that, and there'll be non-human intelligences, well then, we're having a preview of what that will be with people like Peter Thiel, and if you listen to some people like probably like James Comey and other members of the intel agencies, people who talk in a very strange way, or think in a very strange way. That's literally non-human intelligence right there.
John Brennan.
Yeah, they're not really, they're not fundamentally human, you know what I mean? They're not human like the rest of us, so they're non-human intelligence. Aberrant human intelligence, whatever. And they're the aliens, basically, is what I'm saying. Those guys are the aliens, huh?
And they seem to be in charge.
Yeah, they're the ones who are in charge, yeah. So we already have been taken over by non-human intelligences quite a long time ago. And they're actually on the internet. And you see them all the time, but you just don't recognize them as such,
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably good, because then if they actually want to officially usher in some kind of actual ancient space brothers or something, or cave dwellers, you know. Maybe that was the Jews, like maybe that was the New York thing with the Jews in
the tunnels.
In the tunnels, like maybe like that's a preface to ultimately you put that together with people like Mark Zuckerberg or Peter Thiel or whatever, combine that with the Jews in the tunnels and just a beautiful kind of like merging of those two. People are just being prepped for, you know, non-human intelligence to emerge from underground, a cave or something, and say, we are your ancient ancestors, just like them. See them Jews? Well, they're kind of closer to us because they still live in caves and tunnels. and you may notice, at least some of the religious ones, and you may notice that we, your new overlords who've come from underground, you may notice that our attitudes and our beliefs and maybe even the way we look and express ourselves is very similar to people like Peter Thiel. Well, it just so happens that Peter Thiel is one of our emissaries. So it's all very seamless. You don't have to be shocked. It's just going to seamlessly transform into, you don't even know that they're aliens. You'd be like, oh, okay. And they'll be talking about transhumanism and uploading your brain into the internet.
You think the worst of the dystopian scenarios are seriously viable?
Like what?
Like viable in what sense?
What are you talking about though?
Peter Thiel features a lot in their narratives because of his company Palantir. Alex Karp's is number 2. But they also tend to put Musk in the same category. The so-called PayPal mafia, where they are the new elite, the new oligarchs, the new bosses. Maybe not always affecting it, showing it, you know, but behind the scenes.
What do they want to do?
They want total, not total control, but I think Larry Ellison described it best. You know, imagine a future where we have enough data on everyone that everyone knows they're being watched all the time. They behave accordingly. Crime is a thing of the past. That's very much like a sci-fi movie plot. You know, crime has been eliminated because
Big Brother's watching.
The totality of the shift where there is no chance for you to do crime.
Where there is digital.
But most people don't want to do crime.
And
I don't think that's the agenda, really. You would have to say that's a first one's free, or it's an entry drug type thing, or it's a way to get people to go along with something. Because like I'm talking about, crime will be a thing of the past and all that kind of stuff. Everybody will be watched, and therefore there'll be no crime. It's like you don't need to watch the vast majority of people, because the vast majority of people are not engaging in crime.
Most food would be bioengineered, lab made,
which you pay for with your digital ID, which is connected to your digital currency wallet, which they can see every transaction for. And if you start having thoughts that are not not in line with, you know, the party, then you're not allowed to buy your breakfast because you're a naughty boy.
Everyone has a baseline income,
but that's slave planet,
yeah,
basically, and you run into the problem there of a lack of participation. You can get people to participate. You can lobotomize everybody. Just take it to its logical extreme. Lobotomize everybody in a special high-tech way where they don't think for themselves. All they do is they get up every morning. They're basically like, turn them into robots, basically. They get up every morning, or maybe they don't need to sleep anymore. You know, you can manipulate them so they don't need to sleep. And get them up, and they get up every morning, or they just work 24 hours a day going out to a specific job or do whatever it is they want them to do, and then everything's perfect. Nobody actually dissents. Nobody has there's no expression of anything. I mean, you know, you have to take that to a logical extreme. Like, I mean, where do you stop that kind of thing, you know? If that's your agenda and it's kind of totalitarian slave planet type thing, you're not going to leave any scope for that people to express themselves in more creative ways that are non-slave like. You have to go the full way ultimately, you know what I mean? And the full way, well, sure, but I don't know, but then you have to start having a philosophical or spiritual conversation about whether or not anybody would want to incarnate in this planet anymore. But then you don't need human beings at all. Let's say you could just make robots. Elon Musk is going to make 1 million robots by 2030 or something like that, right? Or in the next 5 years.
And eliminate poverty.
10 years. So
they all speak about these total solutions.
Maybe 6-7 billion robots, no? If he can do 1 million, ultimately he can do 6 or 7 billion, then everybody can just die off and not come back here. And it can just be a robot planet. So it's no longer humanity or Earth, you know.
Yeah.
There's no half measures with that kind of thing. It's a thing.
I find it nuts, but it is noteworthy that these people are in the thick with Trump. I mean, Musk was literally in his cabinet for 8 months, 6 months. That went down in flames, but still, Musk has some crazy ideas. It's a visionary genius, but I mean, we've got to get to Mars because we've got a narrow window in consciousness, or I'm going to make loads of robots and everyone should have, basic minimal income. And
he's weird, but at least he doesn't absolutely hate and despise people. He doesn't seem to be one of the Peter Thiel types who actually hates humanity.
Yeah. True.
So for all of his quirks, like, I mean, at least there's that.
I'm just singling out the totalizing ideas that are hanging around very, very close to Trump's ear. Yeah. I mean, if it's not Musk, it's Larry Ellison. If it's not Larry Ellison, it's Peter Thiel. If it's not Peter Thiel, it's Sam Altman.
Yeah.
Oh, $500 trillion deal. Trump's like, day one of MAGA this year, January. Massive deal for AI. We're going to have data centers everywhere. Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. Altman has an idea where he wants it to go. But when you listen to the details and his creepy past and his probable assassination of one of his own whistleblowers, which Tucker brilliantly exposed recently, these people are sick fucks, They are seriously influential.
I'm gonna put together a list of non-human intelligences that are actually on the internet today, or in society and on TV, so that people have a preview if there's ever going to be, some actual or more exotic, maybe slightly more exotic, actual non-human intelligence with some kind of spacecraft or some drones or something, or whatever it is whatever technology they're going to try and impress us with, if that's going to happen. They're going to be personages associated with this revelation. I'm just saying,
taking names. Do you have a list?
Well, we had talked about them already.
Oh, just here now. Okay, yeah.
Well, you mentioned another one, Sam Altman.
Definitely.
I'm just going to just go and look at here's a bunch of people. Just go and watch interviews or discussions, whatever, watch these people speaking and understand that, on particular things they say, take excerpts from particular things they say and listen to them speak, watch them closely, watch their mannerisms, watch how they express themselves emotionally, watch how they respond to certain questions, and understand that right there is your aliens. There's your non-human intelligence right there. So the ones that actually will reveal themselves as supposed, ancient cave dwelling space brothers or something, space cave, a cave in space, I don't know, space cave dwelling brothers, that this is them, this is their progeny, this is their, these are their ambassadors, the what do you call it, the advance,
their forward deployment,
their advance guard, just so you get used to them. Or at least you don't have to get used to them. You're used to them already.
Yeah,
they're normal. People take them as normal human beings, but they're obviously not non-human intelligence. Strictly speaking, they're non-human intelligence. So any non-human intelligence in the form of quote-unquote aliens or whatever are going to be quite similar to those people, be speaking and acting and talking in the same way. But it's good to identify now this advanced guard, and identify the problems with them and how they are not quite conspecific with normal humanity.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All
right.
What about Trump and his? Trump just closed the airspace of Venezuela.
What does that mean?
Isn't that good?
He declared it, or he?
It was a warning
to all.
Is it in effect?
Huh?
Like, has he got? Do you know if flights are grounded in Venezuela or something?
From Trump's voice, Trump's lips to God's ears, no? When Trump says it happens, no?
Sometimes.
Huh? It's reality creating. That's This is what he said. Was it on Truth Social or I think it was on Truth Social. Maybe it was on Twitter.
I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah, anyway. But people are screen grabbing it. Here it is, actually. Maybe I sent it to the wrong person. Oh, it's down. Or did I not send you the actual? Oh, sorry, I didn't actually send you the thingy link. Actually, didn't actually send you the. It might be down a little bit. It's not far down. If you go down, yeah, there it is. To all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump.
This message was brought to you by the CIA. Yeah, so that's the kind of announcement that the US used to make through the media, and the next day it was, bombing runs.
Mm-hmm.
But this is Trump doing his version. Please consider, yeah. Well, get on with it. Do your war then. It's been months of this. Let's see. Have planes stop flying?
No,
well, I'm on flight radar right now, and I'm looking at some planes flying over Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and flying into Caracas and Curacao. Or not Curacao, Curacao, an island, and Aruba and stuff, which is just off the coast,
and Trinidad,
in the general area. So it's kind of like when he said that India had stopped buying Russian oil, when India was like, "We actually haven't." Shut up! I said it, and it's happening.
MSN reports some international airlines cancel Venezuela flights.
That kind of thing happens. It's kind of funny, he announced it, but that kind of thing happens whenever the first missiles start flying. Yeah. That's when it's not just for Trump to say.
Yeah.
He's given an advance warning, let's say, supposedly, and now he has to actually make good on it because he's going to sound like a blowhard. But he sounds like a blowhard anyway because he says a lot of things that aren't actually true and nobody cares, and neither does he. So you can't know for sure that he's actually going to make good on his threat.
Exactly.
What appears to be a threat, because he makes all sorts of threats and says all sorts of things that aren't actually true. So it's strategic. Trump's unique brand of strategic ambiguity, which is not really thought out. It's like he would be really good in the CIA. No, he would probably be really horrible because they have to spend a long time, and the State Department, whatever, they have to spend a long time coming up with ways in order to project their strategic ambiguity. They have to have, talks and think tanks and work out how they're going to approach this particular situation
and gradually change the message.
Yeah, or
you don't come on hard and then blow off.
No, you say one thing and say another, but it's all thought out about why you're doing it and what the results will be, to your benefit and all that kind of stuff. But Trump just does it as a matter of his own personality. He is Mr. Strategic Ambiguity. When he opens his mouth, everything he says is strategically ambiguous, except he's not being strategic about it at all. He's just being ambiguous. And he's not being ambiguous on purpose. He's just saying stuff. Oh, look, Trump said some stuff. That's as much as you can say about most of what Trump actually says. Trump said stuff. And what did he say? It doesn't really matter what he said. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter what he said. You have to wait to see if anything actually comes of what he said. Or you have to actually look to see.
We're all beholden to Trump's instincts and how they're doing on any given day. But do you remember when he was asked by a reporter sometime during the autumn, we've heard, Mr. President, that Maduro has offered you all kinds of deals, whatever you want. And Trump just replied with this another F-bomb. Yeah, that's because he knows he shouldn't F with America. Well, what's the sticking point there? I mean, Maduro presumably did offer substantial benefits to huge trade deals with the United States. Why doesn't Trump take it in this case? He normally jumps at the chance to cash in on the leverage of US military domination over other countries to translate it into peaceful pro-America, pro-MAGA trade deals.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's just some background context. This is from 2023. So it's only a snapshot in time. It doesn't show you the progression over time. But even in the middle of the economic crisis in Venezuela, 50% of its exports were to the US. And have been something like that for ages. The US, because of how close they are, is obviously Venezuela's major. So they have this natural leverage and always have. I mean, they can make it 90%. They can squeeze China out, but just do it the Trump way. Why is he doing it the CIA way? Or threatening to do it the CIA way? You know, that's what I'm wondering.
He can, how would he squeeze, what leverage would he use? You trade, you mean? Cut off trade? Is that what you're saying?
No. Grow US Venezuela trade. Like lift the sanctions that are on US oil companies to do exploitation and refinement of Venezuelan oil. There are a few exemptions granted to specific companies, Chevron being one of them. But for the most part, the US's own bleeding sanctions block US companies from exploiting Venezuela's vast resources. It's like, you know, I've shot myself in the foot, and now I'm holding the same gun at the head of the guy, and I'm blaming him for me shooting myself in the foot. You could easily muscle out, but it might take time, but you could easily muscle out the minority partner there in that chart at 9%, China.
Yeah, well, that's trade. Well,
why do you need the gun to do it?
Because China has already, I mean, it centers around oil, natural resources here, not necessarily other trade. There isn't much in the way of oil trade, really any oil trade from Venezuela to the US. Trump wants control of Venezuelan oil, particularly in order to lock out China and, to a certain extent, Russia from involvement in that country. But it's late in the game for him to do that, you know what I mean? Because Venezuela has already, you know, the relationship has been soured a long time ago with Venezuela. Not Trump's fault, but that's what he's inherited. And both China and Russia have developed strong ties with Venezuela over the years when America was not being very nice to Venezuela. And what motivation does Maduro have at this point to kind of turn to kick those two out and turn and give everything to the USA?
Not being bombed.
Not being bombed, but is he going? Is
Trump being an Empire Light manager?
Yeah, but is that going to happen?
Well, Maduro is making a hell of a bet on it not happening if that's what he's thinking, because a third of the entire US Navy is currently, its firepower is currently stationed right off Venezuela, and Trump has just declared a de facto no-fly zone. It's pretty hot, you know.
Well, I mean, it's obviously that they want to get rid of Maduro as well.
Yes,
Maduro's not allowed to stay.
Yeah,
so Maduro's in power.
The sticking point.
So there doesn't seem to be a deal on the table, at least from America, where America would stay its hand and Maduro can stay in power. Give us all your oil and you stay in power. It's like you have to go as well. So it comes down to Maduro.
Why does Maduro have to go?
Huh? Because he's not ideologically aligned.
That's to me is the real thing here, is that
could never trust him.
You can't trust him because he's not one of your guys.
Yep.
And so he
never would be, and you never know that he wouldn't be doing, you know. Ultimately, it's like you want full control.
Exactly. It's not that he would do anything against the U.S. if they were to do these trade deals and, you know, give America, you know, whatever access it wanted. It's simply the fact that he's not their man, that he is not one of them. He's not in the club. He's not a non-human intelligence.
And Donald Trump has no problem with other lefties all over the world. He had no problem with Mexico's AMLO. Or he's maybe not as lefty, but for what it's worth,
China's taking all of Venezuela's oil right now, and they've been engaged with like Venezuela for a long time under
because the US is trying to
because the sanctions,
wall off all to reduce all of its
oil
revenues.
It was basically oil for loan deals. Venezuela was giving oil, and China was giving loans, and China's been invested in the Venezuelan economy for a very long time, and that's Trump's real concern.
Is it Trump's concern, or is it someone else's concern given to Trump?
Well, maybe
for what it's worth, The Atlantic asked this month. I know it's The Atlantic. Simply, why Venezuela? The second paragraph, they're basically saying it's Marco Rubio, or that he represents a voice of this exile community of Venezuelans and Cubans in Miami. And they're not nothing. They were involved in JFK, Cuban Missile Crisis, all that shit back in the 60s. They're still there, and there's more of them, and they're still nuts. And they're still involved with drugs. And drugs are part of this, because part of the way they're selling this to Trump, that he's half-heartedly selling back to the American people, is Maduro is a narco dictator, which is the whole Panama shit from 1989. Literally George H.W.'s bullshit about Panama and why they went in there. And it's not true in this case. In fact, Rubio himself, like didn't he stay? His brother was a drug dealer or something like that, and he stayed in the house of one. Those exiles are up to their gills in coke or coke adjacent cash flows, and they're the ones. It seems they're a powerful enough lobby or voice in the United States, and they go back with the CIA. Like I said, mongoose in the 60s. This is how it's being sold to Trump. Because he doesn't read much, and he goes on his instincts, and Rubio's in there with him, and he trusts Rubio because Rubio's done good work on Russia this year. So I think if even, like, I've seen articles from, the Grey Zone and Dropsite News pointing out, guys, you got to look at Rubio's influence here. But now the fucking Atlantic is saying the same thing. It's not nothing. Because this week Trump's also tweeting crazy things about how he's going to release some Honduran guy because there's an election coming up, and the guy in question is actually a narco dictator. He's arrested in the United States.
400 tons
of cocaine
400
in the US.
tons.
There's a real cartel leader who was the president of Honduras, and Trump's pardoned him to help the guy whose party he was a member of, that he's been told is Honduras' version of MAGA, is because it's right wing. They're not. They're actual narco terroristas cartel. So it's drugs are definitely involved here, but he's having this shit poured in his ear, and it's the signals are getting completely crossed as to who is really doing it and who isn't. That won't be the be all and end all. I don't think Trump. It's not like he just woke up this week and went, "Oh, Venezuela bad." So
no, he's been
consistently on this into his first term as well.
Yeah, but he's been given that from policy experts and that kind of stuff, But they're just worried about it. Like these people all look down the line type thing. They're looking to the future, and obviously Chinese influence in Venezuela, like I said, buying up 90% of Venezuela's oil in exchange for loans of something like 60, 70 billion in loans to Venezuela and all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, that kind of relationship can lead to military bases and a lot of Chinese influence in the country, and it becomes a strategic kind of security or military threat to the USA. So that's why Trump's doing what he's doing, because that's our backyard, and you don't get Chinese out of our backyard. Because we have to save America.
If they go with bombing, if they go with regime change, and what the Israelis attempted in Iran in June, but go a little further and actually do the decapitation strike, there's going to be refugees. Because there's always think this time it'll go right. There'll be knock-on effects, and like. He knows that. We know he knows that because he's been bitching about it for 10 years. That's why he became president, because those idiots wrecked everything by spending $6 trillion.
Trump at least is
on regime change wars and nation building that did fuck all.
Yeah. Trump's the one benefit of Trump is that he seems to be, compared to his predecessors, military war averse, let's say. He doesn't want to start any wars, let's say. And, you know, he's aware of somebody, I hope, has his ear and is, I mean, as much as they're telling him how evil Venezuela is or how they have to get control of Venezuela, they're also letting him know that, you know, attacking Venezuela could have serious repercussions in various different ways that would be, you know, blowback from not just immigration, increasing immigration, let's say, if you really went to town in Venezuela, but like, you know, the response of China, because ultimately it's seen by the Chinese, we've seen the Chinese as a strategic attack on Chinese interests in Venezuela as well. So the Chinese would respond. How are they going to respond? Do you really want to start? Do you really want to open up a kind of new front in that respect with China? There's so many knock-on effects of that kind of thing. It's not something that happens in isolation. You know, it's all interconnected,
and that'll be why it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, they're still weighing up limited strikes to see if they can achieve something.
But I bet
without
the people telling him
creating a food bar
are CIA.
Probably.
This is how you. No, it's not that simple, sir. You know, you want to just hang in there with us. We're setting it up right.
No.
Which is why I said
this
before,
time the band's going to make it.
This time, regime change will be. Has there ever been a regime change that worked? Well, it used to work, I suppose, in the 60s. But what does work mean? Because it turned Latin America. It retarded its development, and you ended up with an ever-increasing progression of migration waves. And the population of the United States today is 400 million. You won't hear that anywhere because no one even knows that. But it's vast. It's huge. It's too much. It's insane. And that glut, that is the long-term... at the time, unknown of the way you mismanaged your backyard in South America. So they were seen as spectacular. United Fruit Company, yeah, money's flowing, awesome. Money's flowing, drugs are flowing. Now your kids are hooked up on drugs, and you've got your kids and the migrants of the countries that you were bombing living in all over the place. But they don't care. Trump does care, though. Obviously, he does care because he's all up on those issues too: migrants, crime, drugs.
And of course, you're talking about taking out. If you attack Venezuela as well, you're talking about taking out, you know, destabilizing the oil market, increasing prices. I mean, anything that America engages in that respect, and seems to be a lot of it centered on oil and energy resources. Anything you do in that respect, if you do it the wrong way, you're going to hike, in this case, global oil prices to 10 or 20%. You don't want to do that because
then Russia
gets a benefit, and Americans at the pump aren't happy, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's just so.
But he
wants fundamental.
He's talking himself into a corner.
Yeah, the policy is that they want fundamental political change in Venezuela. They don't just want the oil. The oil was offered. Maduro offered to redirect all Chinese oil shipments of Venezuelan oil to China, to redirect them to America. And Trump said, "No, not enough. I want more. You have to go." And Maduro's like, screw that. I mean, at the end of the day, Maduro's not going to walk away. He sees himself as, you know, he's carrying the Bolivar sword and all that kind of stuff, and he's leading the revolution, and he's doing it in the interest of the population, and he's doing it in his own interest as well, to whatever extent. He's not about to just walk away, you know. He's not a quisling in that respect, you know. So, and he's probably getting some assurances from the Chinese, from the Russians. Don't worry, we got your back type thing, and
I don't know.
It's a game of chicken, you know.
What can they do from so far away?
They've been shipping in a lot of military hardware.
Yeah, we'll see.
They've been getting anti-aircraft.
Air
defense systems from China and Russia.
So basically, is Iran. My days of having my hopes up that, you know, Russia have jerry rigged the trap for Israel.
Yeah. Well, not for Israel. That's different. But Venezuela, maybe. And we want one of your F-16 shot down. There's escalation potential there, you know.
Yeah,
it's very, very, very difficult. You imagine yourself in that position where you think you're going to have get 1/3 of the military of our navy in off the coast of Venezuela. And then we're like, okay, what do we do here? We send in the jets, or we send some Tomahawk cruise missiles? What do we do to, we fly any planes anywhere near there? What if one of them gets shot down? Immediately that's escalation, because suddenly, oh look, Donald, Maduro shot down a bunch of your planes. What you going to do?
It's a Venezuelan missile crisis. What you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to be a pussy, a commie like that JFK?
You going to walk away?
Huh?
You want to escalate? Go on, escalate. The Chinese and the Russians are saying, yeah, escalate, Trump. Go, do it. So, very difficult. Especially for someone like Trump. Although, you have to give him some credit, I suppose. He doesn't get as much credit as he actually deserves, It's easy to lampoon the guy, but he's not that bad. He's the best America has right now.
Do you think
isn't saying a lot?
If he had gotten the Nobel Peace Prize...
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe now there'd be a war. Or not. I don't know.
Well, if you get the Nobel Peace Prize, you can't be going...
You can't be going all peacenik.
Exactly.
Oh,
huh?
Ask Obama.
Well, that's... No, but... but, I mean, Trump would take the Nobel Peace Prize seriously.
Yeah.
He wants it because he's actually a war stopper and a peacemaker.
Maybe maybe that was part of the shenanigans. He was lobbying so hard for it, and then they gave it to the leader of Venezuelan opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he stopped whinging because it's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And she graciously, said, Trump should have got this or something.
Mm-hmm.
There's a double message behind that. Not only are we not giving it to you, but here's some bait for you to go. Because if we give it to you, you're less likely to do something in Venezuela. But now you're more likely because, the stars, we've aligned the stars for you,
But again, Trump can claim, as is his want, he could start a war in Venezuela and then end it and then claim that he ended that war.
Right, which he has done.
Well, not so explicitly, but this would be a doozy. I would really like to see him do that, My fellow Americans, tonight I have ordered our Navy to start bombing Venezuela. 2 days later. My fellow Americans, I've just stopped my 9th war.
And Venezuela has agreed to it. And Venezuela's like, what?
What happened?
That literally happened in June. Iran was like, he posted the ceasefire thing, God bless the world, on his Truth Social. And Iran went, what? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll play along. But no, he didn't tell us. And we didn't sign anything.
But if it stops the bombing, then...
Did you see in Ukraine?
Yeah, Ukraine. So last week, literally, again, it's a Sunday night factor. It always happens.
Yeah.
Often happens. It was from that moment that the Trump proposed 28-point plan began to be, let's say, watered down. First by the Euro cabal, then by Ukraine, who went, because Ukraine was feeling the pressure. We've seen this like 6 times this year. Zelensky is, he's feeling the pressure because he actually made a televised address the week before, saying to people, we've got a choice here. It's a hard choice, a harsh winter, or we give Russians land, basically. And then, well, that's gone now. Now Zelensky's confident again because the Euros come back and rally around him, and they say, well, hang on, Trump, let us just look at this point. Okay, no, this one's out. No, this one's out. Actually, we're going to insert our one here and here. And by the end of the week, the British media is like declaring it dead. Trump's 28-point plan is gone.
Yeah, except then there's, at the same time, there's corruption investigation. And Yermak, Yermak, who basically is he's actually the power behind the throne in Venezuela. He's probably the most powerful.
Ukraine.
In Ukraine. He's the most powerful dude, and he's been targeted. And the only reason he was targeted is because the Americans wanted him targeted. So Trump's basically planned for forcing his long demanded end to the conflict is planned to get that to happen is to put this kind of pressure on.
So Yermak
directly on Zelensky's inner circle, basically.
Goes to the front line. Yermak goes to the front line.
No, he goes to Spain or Miami.
Well, he said he's going to the front line.
He says he's going to the front line.
So
shit.
The cynical nature of that was kind of funny. Yeah.
That's.
I mean, the guy's.
He's the really tall guy, right? Well, he seems really tall next to Zelensky.
Yeah, they all look a bit like.
He's chief of staff.
Yeah, they all look a bit like. They all are a bit Neanderthal, like, apart from Zelensky, you know, who looks like a hobbit.
Gay hobbit.
Yeah, but yes. So as soon as Yermak's investigated, they raided his home and all that kind of stuff, and that's the Americans. The only people who would have the ability to do that is the US influence in Ukraine, and this anti-corruption kind of government agency in Ukraine is basically run by the Americans. So Zelensky's ex-chief then, in response to this, because he resigned and then said he's going to the front. Which is interesting because it just so happens that Ukrainian law allows suspects and defendants to join the army, which automatically suspends investigations for the duration of their service.
If he does that, he'll be picked up by the Russians in.
Well, he's not going to the front line. He's just going to sign up the military.
Okay.
Because Ukrainian law allows for people who have signed up for the military to have their investigations suspended against them.
Who else?
And just enough time for them to go to Israel, huh?
Who else did this? Somebody else did the same thing. There was corruption, and then they were like, "Oops, I'm gonna go to the front," and then, I can't remember.
Or Ukrainian?
Yeah. It was a Ukrainian.
Yeah, a few of them have done it basically, but they don't actually go to the front, obviously.
Yeah,
and then, but slightly less subtle is this dude who. Following up on Trump's suggestion that he get a pardon, Netanyahu formally asked for a pardon from Israeli president, and he actually said that his pardon in the corruption case would be in the public interest. Don't send me to jail because it would be in the public interest for me to stay out of prison. Oh yeah, how's that? I am the public.
Yeah, and therefore
it's in their interest. Me, public, no difference. It's like sending all of Israel to prison. It's terrible. How would you do that?
The quote I saw was that Netanyahu said, in the interest of national conciliation and to lower the temperature of the political climate, pardon me. He's such a... that guy is...
There seems to be a lot of anger in the country over all of my crimes. So I think the best thing to do in the interest of the public and the country to dissolve or to settle that anger and to
ease the tension.
Well, to ease the anger and make it go away, basically, is for me to be absolved of those crimes. Can't you see? It's an obvious look.
Because if you can't be prosecuted for your crimes, then there's no sense and no point in being angry at you for the crimes that you committed because there's no repercussion.
Well, if you take the crime away, then what are you angry about? Do you know what I mean? If you just say that I'm innocent, like, I could have killed a bunch of people. And like the judge has to go and try the case and get a jury and all that kind of stuff. And that's a lot of like stress on those people, you know? So to save the judge and the jury the stress of having to try me, why don't you just declare me innocent and then nobody has to do anything? Everybody can go home and be happy. Gone. See? That's non-human intelligence right there.
Definitely. Have you seen the documentary that the BB Files? It's Israeli... American/Israeli made, so Jews made themselves. The case is fascinating. Netanyahu has it's a very good, well made, high production values, yada yada. Netanyahu's legal team has had it nixed on all streaming platforms. I don't know where I got the copy. I think we had Ways and Means, but it's still been viewed, millions of times. The case isn't like about corruption which would bury him. Like, for example, the suitcases of cash he arranged to come from Qatar to fund Hamas and to increase their military capability just prior to all this current shit show. It's like, it's more run-of-the-mill political corruption, favors, cigars, cash for him, for his wife, clothes, trips to Paris, the kind of corruption that has obviously followed Zelensky around Ukraine big time. That's all it is. But this guy has fought tooth and nail for 5 years. We've seen all the excuses. Oh, sorry, there's a national emergency. Sorry, I just bombed Lebanon, so I need to be here at work. I have a cold. I'm not feeling well. Can't come in tomorrow. He keeps deferring it, but it is an ongoing trial. And that's the substance of it. So he's not like going to prison for 30 years for it, but it's enough. It would be enough for him to have to resign. And just on that front, he's prepared to turn the world upside down. Because the thought that I would no longer be the prime minister is unthinkable. That's non-human intelligence, definitely. The media was saying Trump's 28-point peace plan is dead, but the media is wishes a lot of things to be true. In reality, today, Ukrainian officials are in Florida, presumably Mar-a-Lago. They're meeting Rubio and Witkoff to discuss where next. So, someday this war is going to end. The Euros are determined it become a forever war, but its time is running out for sure.
I think it's going to end pretty soon, before the end of this year, or maybe
Putin is going to be
early next
in Kiev, and the Europeans will say, "We can still fight. We can still do it. Zelensky can still win, sir. He's in prison in Russia right now. He can still do it. We just have to do the 50th package of sanctions."
Yeah. I think the whole thing with the Europeans and the money, that's just bilking the public coffers for defense industry and stuff, trying to boost the economy, basically. By justifying, they have to scare people into justifying, scare people and manipulate the politicians to agreeing to vote for, large amounts of public money going to defense contractors. Because nothing else is going to come of it. Like, there's not going to be any. It's ridiculous. There's not going to be any war between Europe and Russia. It's complete nonsense. Don't know why anybody believes it. Osama's under my bed still, apparently. I heard Osama bin Laden's under my bed. When are people going to learn to not believe that stuff? When are they going to plug in the experiences that they've had before, where governments and politicians deliberately try to scare the population in order to achieve things that are really for their own benefit,
They're learning.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they're
growing in numbers.
The Middle East Spectator wrote a rant that it was railing against Americans, saying that Americans haven't done shit to stop the American government from, running roughshod over the world. And I was just like, you do realize this is like deep within, like, this is the central hub of like evil in this world. Like, there's nothing Americans can do to stop it. You can get all 300 million actual Americans out in the streets, and they can be joined hand in hand with 100 million of the foreigners who are there with them, and it won't do shit.
I don't know. You guys, it's been a long time since you tried a revolution. Sometimes they are pretty successful. But that's the problem. United purpose, What would you be attacking, overthrowing?
Because, how many...
Down the road, it's not unfeasible, huh? But at the moment, things are still relatively comfortable. But the signs, like Mamdani's being elected, I think they're road signs towards kind of reckoning.
The socialist utopia is coming to America.
No, it's obviously unrealistic, but that people are even entertaining what's been hammered into them in the previous era, post-World War II era. Oh, God, that would be the worst thing.
Mm-hmm.
Never go commie, you know? Mm-hmm. And now it's winning, like, elections.
Trump claimed on Truth Social that, or maybe it was in X, I never can tell the difference, that there are 53 million migrants in the USA. 53 million people, census. Foreign population, most of which are on welfare from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, drug cartels, or tunnels. Jew tunnels. Yeah, 53 million, and then the rest is all a big rant about the same kind of thing.
Oh, this must be part one of what I showed earlier. I was wondering why my Trump Truth Social post began with an ellipse. So the part where he goes, remigration, all caps, that's part two of this. Mm-hmm. It's his Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. Thanksgiving essay.
It's Thanksgiving.
It's impressive. Trump's writing a whole essay, basically.
Thanksgiving rant. The seriously retarded governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, does nothing, either through fear, incompetence, or both, while the worst congressman/woman in our country, Ilhan Omar, always wrapped in her swaddling hijab, swaddling in her hijab, who probably came into the USA illegally, in that you are not allowed to marry your brother, does nothing but hatefully complain about our country, its constitution, and how badly she is treated, when her place of origin is a decadent, backward, and crime-ridden cesspool nation. He didn't say cesspool, which is essentially not even a country for lack of government, military, police, schools, etc. Jeez, he really went to town on people there, you know. Mm-hmm. And he said the real migrant population is much higher than the 53 million that he referred to.
He's not wrong.
100 million, maybe.
Maybe. That was my example.
Good, like 25% of the American population is now migrants. 1 in 4.
What could go wrong?
Nothing. It's going to be awesome.
Diversity.
America.
Strength and diversity.
It's a scale that you can't... Oh, the scale is unfathomable. But they try here and there. And I'm not saying that what he's posted there is him trying anything but just red bait to the base. You said a number of times that, look, MAGA, the best Trump, the thing he really is interested in is trade, tariffs, big deals. And he's kind of left the rest to... He agrees. There's a tacit agreement with the spooks that all the other stuff, okay, Epstein files, whatever. It's your territory.
The spooks / Congress, yeah. Congress is the Congress is the interface between, you know, the public and the deep state, basically. Because, you know, especially in America, government's a big thing, and Trump, only one guy, Trump, if he's actually going to run the country, he's not going to run all aspects of the country. You know?
No.
Of course, he has a cabinet and all that kind of stuff, but even they aren't going to run it themselves, right? There's a whole bureaucracy behind the scenes that runs it and has run it. You know, the permanent bureaucracy. So yeah, he leaves a lot of it just to that. Like he doesn't have the time to do that. He'd do nothing but be fighting with them, trying to evict them, trying to change them. I mean, you need a very large crowbar to get those people out of there, you know. And then you wouldn't be able to fill it with competent people, and the country would fall apart. Or maybe it would do really well. You never know.
If there wasn't a bunch of corrupt retards running the country, I think we would do surprisingly well on our own.
Like Malay, you know, just get rid of all the different departments. Throw them out. Nobody needs them anyway.
Fuego.
Afuera.
So here's what I was going to mention. You probably noticed in the summer there were it rose a lot of eyebrows because it was very European style intervention in the market. The US government bought stakes in a number of key players, American private multinationals. I think the one everyone heard about was Intel. This is in the New York Times this week. So if you scroll down to the table, it just has some figures. Intel people heard about a 10% stake the US government took in this massive US company. But the main interest, this wasn't the one-off. There's something going on all through the year, and the main interest that Trump has, if you look in the table, lithium, MP Materials, which is a mining company, Re-Element, well, you can see that they've categorized them themselves. They're all minerals. The last two are classical. They're steel and nuclear energy. Although it's unclear if those are going to be followed up. But Westinghouse, 8% stake. The total combined value so far in these stakes taken by the US government is $10 billion worth. So it's not much, but there's not random selection. It's not like Trump is intervening here and saying we're going to prop up failing American companies. In a couple of cases, yeah, they are getting bludgeoned by China on the international markets and they need propping up. It says midway through the article, in July, the Defense Department agreed to take a $400 million stake in MP Minerals, a mining company that has struggled to turn profits amid tough price pressures from China, which is gobbledygook for China slaughtering us on the market. So he's stepping in to help. But his main interest was actually, as they say in the article, which has the usual anti-Trump slant, of course, because it's from the New York Times, is in securing US government stake in companies that are critical to everything. And rare earth minerals, mining.
That's socialism.
Well, that's the thing.
That's how you better control it.
That's the thing. This is
when things get
de facto, it's just beginning, but the renationalizing of what were once, in some cases, public utilities or assets, which were privatized during the great years, the neoliberal revolution, you know, and then they took off. Just let them be free. Washington didn't care. Go on that, and we'll just use them. You need help, call us. We'll start a revolution, call the military, start a war. Otherwise, you're on your own. Go nuts. But now, there's Chinese competition, and they're not doing so well, to say the least. So you're seeing a kind of de facto nationalization of key industrial assets.
And then with the stuff we were saying before about socialism, what you have is national socialism.
And now you see Mamdani and Trump getting along very palsy in the Oval Office, and you're like,
It's all coming true. Trump is...
The prophecy is true. MAGA communism is the true goal. I'm joking. Some people do say that, though. Because, like, how did China achieve this? Yes, brutal capitalism, in a sense, but it's also by ensuring state ownership of key industry.
Yep. Yeah.
And state direction as to what should and should not be made decision-wise.
That's because privately owned corporations are much too willing to do business with the enemy if it serves their interests. To do business with anything that doesn't serve the country, that only serves the company. Yeah. And the company, because they can offshore all sorts of stuff and still get the profits from other countries when those, rather and not invest them, they're effectively in that sense investing a certain amount of the profits or the revenue of the company in foreign countries. That's why governments come in and take control of it and try and make sure that, to limit that and to make sure that as much of the revenue from that company, the product of that company,
the surplus value, comes home.
Yes,
it was something that
and you have to do that in a more competitive world. You're not the hegemon anymore.
Yeah, again, like I said earlier, reading some of Richard Werner's stuff has been quite enlightening to see. I read his most recent, his part 2 on China and how basically China became a powerhouse economically. Fascinating read, very interesting. And like you were saying, part of it is doing something to keep companies from being taken over by foreign interests who would then exploit, the company and then the people and the resources, etc., for their own benefit. And
it's to keep foreign competition out, essentially. It's to try, as well as also, other than what I said previously, it's also to keep, make sure that foreign companies can't infiltrate or invade your country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that was,
in that way, because ultimately,
and then start to bend the rules in their favor,
and then
it's an avenue towards political power.
Bend the country to its favor, and that was one of the things that he mentioned in his article, was that in order to trade with the West and China got exemptions for a lot of its companies with the World Trade Organization. So that way it could still do the things that it wanted to do, aka, having Chinese national interest in their companies, but still be able to trade with the rest of the world, which apparently is one of those things that if you want to trade with the big boys, you have to do what we tell you, which is how they exploit these countries and then turn them into like shithole countries that they then control and manipulate, and then wreck, which is exactly what they did with Japan, among others.
Who did?
The West.
Japan.
With Japan? Japan's not a shithole country.
It is compared to what it was, compared to what it could have been.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Jap's doing pretty good.
Compared to what they were doing in the 60s and 70s, the Chinese economy is nothing.
Japanese.
Sorry. The Japanese economy is nothing like it was in the 60s and the 70s.
They had to redevelop.
No, this was the policies that they had put in place, and that was what Warner is talking about, is that they had taken the economic policies that made Germany work, which incidentally they had gotten some of those ideas from the Americans way back when.
Yeah. They
figured out the policies that they needed to enact in order to create high growth in their economy. And so they did that. They implemented it. And then it worked too well. And so
artificial limits were put on it.
Yes.
In the late 80s.
Yes.
Because Japan was told, if you want to remain in our big club, stop right there.
Part of empire.
Yeah.
So and that's all I'm saying, is that they're part of the way that they were able to stave it off for so long was because Japan was doing something similar to China in having nationalized interest in some of these companies.
But it couldn't be allowed to do that because America wanted to keep... America went to the bother of nuking Japan twice. It's like they needed to get something out of that. Do you know what I mean? They spent a lot of money on that nuclear bomb. So they nuked Japan twice, and it's like, now you're ours. You don't go your own way, basically. I mean, we nuked you for the explicit purpose of actually bringing you into our sphere of influence.
They literally wrote their constitution which says no military.
Right.
And that's still the case.
Except for our military.
Yes, our military will be your military.
Right.
Pointed at China.
Yeah.
And here we are.
In other news, you don't hear much about Namibia these days, but Namibia had elections recently and literally Hitler won. Adolf Hitler Unona says about his name that it was too late to change it on all the official documents. So I'm sorry, Adolf Hitler has risen again, and he's now the president of...
President? He'd become the leader of the country?
Oh, Namibia, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And he's black. Hitler's back and he's black.
Yeah.
He's back in black.
The libtards are like, their heads are exploding because they're imploding from confusion.
Yeah.
They know they shouldn't like it, but he's so diverse.
He's so dark-skinned.
That one time when he's literally Hitler is actually true.
Spoiler alert, he's part of the woke left party.
Yes, left-wing swapper party, yeah.
This is beautiful. That's great news.
Poor guy. Literally Hitler won.
What were his parents thinking? Oh, we shouldn't go there, actually. What were his parents thinking? They were groypers before any of us were born. Yeah. But we wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time.
Send it.
It's time. What do you call a bulletproof Irishman?
A bulletproof Irishman. Tough bastard.
Ricochet.
Good one. Good one.
A 3 foot 3 inch man knocked at my door. 3 foot 3 inches tall. Who might you be? I asked. I'm the meter man, he replied. Happened. True story.
True story happened yesterday.
Yeah.
You got 2 jokes this week, people.
There you go.
You're welcome.
2. This is why you have to stay till the end.
Yeah.
It gets slow and, at the beginning, but then you get jokes. That's the trade-off.
Yeah. So, that's it.
There's a good one in there about the Flintstones.
What did they say?
It's gone now. I think the comments are flooding in. Did you see it, Scotty?
Something about...
It was the people of Dubai don't like the Flintstones, but those in Abu Dhabi do.
Very good. I like that one. Abu Dhabi do. Yabba dabba do. Anyway, yes. Good job submitting your worst jokes ever. So anyway, we'll leave it there for this week, folks. Thanks for watching, listening, whatever you were doing, and commenting. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with another show on whatever bullshit's been going on between now and then. So until then, have a good week.
See y'all.
Bye.
Can't stop the signal, Mel.